Today I'm going to show you how to transform a very simple sketch into a real concept painting. Hey there, my name is Ali. You can find me on Instagram at Photoshop Hustler. And today we're gonna take this edit. It's a very simple sketch or idea, and then we're gonna transform it into a real image. As you can see here, I'm just I put the ground the darkest, then the closer to the camera is darker, the further you go away is brighter, and finally you have the background. Okay, let's get started. First, I'll add the ground. I took that photo. I'm gonna link all the photos I'm gonna use in the description below so you can follow along with us. So this is the first photo. I'm gonna take the quick selection tool. I'm just gonna get rid of that thing at the back, the sky. And then I'm gonna add a layer mask. I got the opposite of what I wanted, so I'm gonna press Ctrl I to give me the inverse, which this is what I want. So I'm gonna copy it to my image. Let's put it on top of the ground. Let's apply layer mask. Okay, now it's obviously huge, so I'm gonna Ctrl T, hold Alt and Shift, and I'm just gonna make it smaller, something like that. Then I'm gonna hold Ctrl Alt and Shift, and I'm gonna play around with its perspective a little bit, something like that, too much. So it just goes along with the ground that I drew. Okay, now we still have some parts missing. I can press Ctrl T and make it like that, but then it's gonna be too big, and I don't want to have two big rocks because this shows you that you're very close to it when I want to make it a far away edit. So I'm gonna press Escape, then I'm gonna hold Alt and copy, put the copy below the original one, take the original one, add a layer mask, go to my brush tool, make sure I'm on a soft brush with a black color, and I'm just gonna erase a little bit of this. I'm gonna take the copy, the one below, then I'm gonna Ctrl T, flip it horizontal, make it a little bit smaller because it's further away, and just adjust it like that. Let's go back, delete a little bit so they blend together, maybe with low opacity. You can start deleting, lower opacity, just so the edges blend together nicely. Then I'm gonna click on the two, then Ctrl E to merge it. So now we have the background. Here we go. Okay, we're done with the background. Let's start playing around with the mountains. I used this photo, this one here. As you can see here, this photo. What I did is I just masked out this part. I took the quick selection tool and I selected this part because it has a lot of shadow, and I just masked it out. So now I have this mountain like that. So I'm just gonna copy it here. It's too big. Let's start. This is layer 2. I press Ctrl click to find the layer. This is as long as your auto select is off. I'm gonna put this one on top. I'm gonna apply layer mask. Then I'm gonna Ctrl T, adjust its size, something like that. And then of course, make sure it's covering the whole gray one. So now if we close or open the gray one, we can't see it. Okay, good. Let's Ctrl click on the gray one, the one we just drew, and let's add layer mask. And let's close the gray one for now. Okay, now we have some problem with the edges. It's not natural. If you see in the real photo, it looks much more natural. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take the brush. I'm gonna use this one, and using the white color, I'm just make sure it's 100 opacity. I'm just gonna bring back some parts here and there. Okay, however, when I see here, you see there's an intersection between this rock and the rock behind. This is where I'm gonna cut, so I'm just gonna stick to the black now, and I'm just gonna erase here at the intersections so it looks more natural. Okay, this one, let me just reveal some so we can find intersections between rocks so we can erase. There we go, a good intersection here. And here we have an intersection. Let me reveal that. Okay, it doesn't really match perfectly, but it's okay. The eyes won't be able to tell. Just try to cut on the intersections so you have like a clean edge. This is really important. Now we have our first layer here, this one. You see we cut a little bit, but it's okay. You don't have to stick to your original form. You can always change around, or if you want to check with the original form, I just can control click on the original form, and on this one I'm just gonna with the white add here and there. But this, it has a bad edge, so I just can stand on the layer, use my clone stamp tool, make sure it's on current layer, and I'll start to try to clone stamp from an edge part, let's say from here, and I'll put it on the edge. I'll try to clone stamp edges actually, something like that, so it looks natural. Okay, now it's good. It looks like an edge. Okay, let's close this one, and we also we stuck with the original shape. As you can see, we only added a part here, which is this one, because I believe it looks good. Okay, now we're done with the first rock. Let's jump to the other side, which is this one. I'm gonna do the same. I'm just gonna copy the rock, Control T, make it smaller, smaller. This time I'm not gonna flip it horizontal. I don't want them to be mirror of each other. It will look too obvious. So I'm just gonna stick with that. I'm gonna wait, let me just undo. First I'll apply layer mask. Then I'm gonna make it smaller. This one. I'm gonna add layer mask to it. So now it's masked to it. I can unlink and take the layer and move it around until I have the best formation. I want the edge to be with the rock, so I'm just gonna try to put the edge. You see we have the edge here. Let me close the one in front here so we can see better. Okay, let's take the brush again, the white brush, and let's try to refine the edge so it looks better and more realistic. Here we go. First, I press X to change between black and white. I reveal a big area, then I start to delete it. I reveal some big area until I try to find some nice edges. Then I actually like this if I go this way. But I don't know, should I stick to the original form or should I change it around? I don't know. Let's stick to the original form. Control click on it, and with the white I'm just gonna stick to the original form, and I'm gonna do the clone stamp move. I'm gonna stamp from here, and let's put here and there. Excuse me. And let's stamp some from here. Okay, now we're good. We have our edge, but this edge is dark. I don't like it. Because usually we'll have our light source here in the middle, so the edges should not be the dark part, it should be the bright part. So I'm just gonna get rid of the dark area. I press Alt and right click to make the brush smaller or bigger. Just hold Alt and hold right click and move right and left. This is very important to make you really fast in Photoshop. Okay, so now we're done with the second one. We have here our two mountains. Let's jump to the mountains at the back. As we go back, it should be faster because we don't have to take care of details. But I'm gonna stick to another type of mountains. This one maybe. Okay, you have to copy it on top here. Okay, so I'm gonna stick with this mountain. I'm gonna delete everything except this one. I want this one. I'm gonna Alt backspace to get rid of this one. Let's apply layer mask, and let me use the rectangle marquee and select this one and just move it to my original canvas. I want to put it on top of this one. Let's make it a little bit smaller. It up and just control click the one below and add layer mask and close the one below. Let me move it. You see this edge? So I'm moving the mask. You have to move the layer itself, not the mask. Yeah, so now we have a better edge. Okay. Let's do the same with the next one. Let's copy it. Make sure it's on top. That. Let's take this one. Let's put it on top of it. Control click, open layer, add layer mask, and unlink. Take the original layer and move it until you find the best position for it. Something like that. You can also like warp it around if you want to adjust the edge even better. If you want the edge to go with the curve exactly, you can warp it around. Okay, so now we have our two mountains. Let's jump to the mountains at the back. Let's use, let's see our photos actually. Let's use, I don't know which one to use. I'm gonna take this one actually. Make it smaller. I'm gonna flip it aside. Doesn't really matter. Apply layer mask. Let's put it on top of this layer. Like that. Control click. Oh, before I do that, I'll just press Control J to have two copies. I'm gonna tell you why. Control click and this one, add layer mask. Okay, there we go. Let me close the top one. Oh, here. There's a problem here on top. It's not till the end, so I'm just gonna stand on the layer mask and using the white color, I'm just gonna paint the top part. And let's move it a little bit up till it's filling the like till the top. Now I know it looks horrible, but still we're gonna fix it, don't worry. Let me take this one at the back. This is just adding the layers. Control click, add layer mask, unlink, take the layer, move it until best position. Here, okay, and close the layer below, close the layer below. We only have now this one, but let's first decide which sky we're gonna use. Okay, I have here a sky folder. Guys, here I have like a bunch of skies I downloaded from Unsplash. Let's decide the mood first. I want something like sunset, like that, so let's use some sort of a sunset photo. Let's put it down below everything. Oh, you see when I close this one, we have here a missing part, but it's okay, I'll leave it open. It doesn't make a difference. Where is the sun? Here is the sun. I want the sun to be on the edge. But this one, I don't like that mountain. I'm just gonna get rid of it using the eraser. Is like that. So here we have our sunset. I'm gonna stand on the sunset layer, rasterize it, add on top of it curves adjustment layer, link it, and I'm just gonna, I wanna darken it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'll remove the shadows. I don't want this to be too blue. It's too contrasty, I believe. Okay, I'll settle with that and then we'll see what else we could do later. Okay, let's take the ones further back. This one, for example, it's the furthest back. I'll add a curves adjustment layer, link it. I want to push this one back in the background, so I'm just gonna pull up like that the shadows and take the highlights, pull them down like this, and the shadows even up more. Let's take this one and let's copy this one on top of it. Make sure it's linked by using alt click. So now we just made it faded to match the background. But I don't like this sky actually because it has two colors. So let's drag this one on top of it. We put this one here on top. This one is only one color, something like that. And I'm gonna change it to overlay. And let's take this sky. Let's add a layer mask. I'm only gonna delete the top part from it. Using black color. And this one, I'm gonna change it back to normal. And I'm gonna add a layer mask, and I'm gonna delete the lower part. So now the top one, we have the top part from it, and the bottom one, we have the bottom part where we have the sun. Okay, now we have an orange reddish mood. We can also enhance the mood a little bit. Let me rasterize this one. Let's add a hue saturation layer. This one, I believe it's 2 to the purple. Here is the purple and here is the orange. I want it to be the same, so I'm gonna move from purple to orange to the right. So I'm just gonna move to the right a little bit, so it's more yellow orange. Okay, and make sure it's linked below. Now you see from moving from red purple to more to the orange. Okay, now these ones, they don't still look good. So I believe we need to make them even more that. Let me delete this one and just copy it again on top so they have the same level of distance. And let me open it. Let's go to the red channel. We need to add red. Red is up or down? Up. So you go up a little bit to the red. You go to the blue. You pull down a little bit to the yellow. Okay, one thing I always do is stand on the layer mask, take the blur tool, and just blur on the edges. I'll show you what this does in the next one. Here, if you see, when I blur on the edges are more blurry. Okay. Still, they need a lot of work. Let's put them near each other. Like this one. So now I need to group them. Instead of doing everything to this one, then to that one, I'll just group them and work on them together. Let's go to the color balance. Let's add some in the shadows. Let's try adding red. Okay, but we have a problem here. We're like connected with the ground. Let's add some magenta. Red. Let's go to the highlights, add some yellow. So now they are much better, but in the group we added something by mistake. Let's pull it out of the group. Oh, let me link it, sorry. It has to be linked. It was already outside the group, but it has to be linked. Okay, so now we're done with the first like mountain. We're still gonna fix more things later. Have this and that mountain, this and that. Let's put them near each other. Group them. Let's add the curves adjustment layer, link it below. And again, we're gonna do the same we did with the ones behind, something like that. And we're gonna go to the color balance, add some red and yellow, go to the shadows, add some red and yellow. Let's make sure it's linked. That's too much of a color, of course. I'm gonna reduce the color. Even if the color is too strong, you can just go to hue saturation and reduce the color a little bit. Okay, good. Now let's take the one in the front. These two, let's group them. Let's go to curves adjustment layer. Let's fade them a little bit, just a little bit. I won't go too strong with these two because they are close to the camera. The closer you get to the camera, like the more contrast you should have. That I don't like this one actually. So in the hue set, it's too yellow. I want it to be more red. So from yellow to red, you move from here to left. So I'm just gonna move it a little bit to the left so it's more reddish. And this one is too strong compared to its distance. So I'm just gonna fade it a little bit more. And let me take this one. Let's move it a little bit like that. So it's actually visible. Let's rotate this one something like that. So it's also visible. And just as you can see, changing here and there. Okay, let's take the ground. Let's add a color balance on top of it. Let's go red, yellow. Okay. Yes, we need more red. That is good. Now, as you can see, the ones at the back, they still don't look really good. So I'm just gonna stick to them, add a layer on top of that group. Try to fix manually. So I'm just gonna take the brush. I'm gonna alt sample color from here. And using a very low opacity, I'm just gonna color, then sample color from here and just color, sample color from here and color, sample from here and color. They just blend better. Here we have like our source of light, so we need to have it something like that. And the same on the ground, we need to have like our source of light. Okay, let me, you're like when you control click and you get the layer, you have to lock it so you don't find it again. And this one, I need to centralize the sun a little bit and move it a little bit down so we have the sun here. This one, it's too dark compared to this one, so I'm just gonna go to brightness contrast and just brighten it up a little bit. Yeah, now it's much better. Now I need to brighten up the one at the back. Where is the layer we added? This one. I'm just gonna lower its opacity a little bit. I believe it's too strong. And on top of this group, I'm just gonna add a brightness contrast. Make sure it's on top of the group. And I'm just gonna brighten this one. Now it's much better. It's more matching the background. But it lost some color here down. On this one, I'm just gonna take a yellow color, something like that. Make sure the brush is on color. And I'm just gonna add some color to it here. Sample from this orange, add some orange color here and there. Okay. Okay, we have now the further mountain. Let's take these mountains, these two. Let's add a brightness contrast. I'm gonna brighten actually, reduce the contrast, but then I'm gonna press Ctrl I. So I have the inverse. Then I'm gonna take my brush and using a white color, I'm just gonna color the edges with white. Looks like the light is hitting from here, and also I'm gonna add a layer and alt click to sample and just add some of the color we have here and there, top of them. Okay, and maybe reduce the opacity a little. Okay, let's take the ones at the back, this group, and let's just lower its opacity. It blends even better with the background. Okay. What else could we do? Let's go back to our original idea, which is this one, and let's see which one could we add. I'm gonna take this one actually, and make sure it's like not inside the group, and I'm gonna select the background. I'm gonna add layer mask. It got the opposite of what I wanted, so I'm gonna press Ctrl I. So now let's rasterize it so we can edit it. Okay, let me put it on top so we can see what we're doing, and let's just try to adjust it until it matches what we want to do. Okay, like that. And let me select this edge like that. And just add a color black on the mask. And let's close this one. So now we have this one. It's our layer. The mountain we have. Let's try flip it horizontal actually. This is better. Now we need to, let's see if we're gonna add the tree. You see there's a line here because of this one. I'm just gonna stand on the mask, apply it, and using the eraser, just gonna erase this line. Just its color, control, let me just add hue saturation, desaturate it a little bit, move it from yellow to red to the left. That's too much. Yeah, something like that is good. And here the problem we're facing is that it's not blending with the ground in a good way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna delete some parts like that. It's not like a, as you can see here, it's just a straight line, which is unnatural. So I'm gonna delete this part like that. Let's delete something like that. Let's delete here. We don't want it to be like a straight line, because you don't find like a straight line edge rocks in reality. Now we have some sort of variation. in the rock formation. Now it's much better than the straight line rock. Also, we can take the dodge and burn tool. Make sure you're on, let's, midtones, it's good. Make sure you're on burn, midtones, we need to darken. I'm just gonna darken the lower part. Okay, and also this one I need to delete. Now one more thing we need to do. I want to blend the ground with the rocks. So simply I'll just add a new layer top of everything and unlink it. Go to the clone stamp tool and go to all layers. And I'm gonna clone stamp from the ground, but make sure it's like 50% from the ground. And I'm just gonna clone stamp on top of the rocks. So now we're blending between the rocks and the ground together, like the ground is overlapping the rocks, making it more realistic. Okay, so now it's way better. You see this one before and after. Shows you that like it's blended together. Okay, but now this rock is too contrasty, so I'm just gonna go to curves, move up a little bit, move down a little bit, just to reduce the contrast a little bit. Now we need to make some sort of separation. As you can see here, the rocks, you can't say which one is back, which one is front, which was, like, we need more separation. So I'm just gonna take this one, on top of them I'm gonna add a new layer, and this layer I'm just gonna take an orange color, something like that, and using my brush I'm gonna take here I have this cloud brush, and I'm just gonna draw. You see now it's on top of everything except that one, so it's good, but I'm gonna take it to normal and just reduce the opacity and just add some sort of separation in this one and everything behind. Okay, so this is the first one. I'm gonna right click, make it violet, and lock it down. But before I lock it down, I'll just erase from here. Sorry, I'll make it soft and erase from here. I don't want it in front of the rock, I want it only behind the rock, so it shows the distance. Okay, let's lock it. Okay, let's take these, let's behind them add a new layer, and again, but now it's gonna be a little bit brighter. Let's add here another one. Make sure you just add it on the edges, because the more contrast you have on the edge, the more it shows that there's a difference between that one and the one behind. Something like that. Okay, and finally let's give it the violet. Close it. Let's take this one, and behind it I'm gonna add a layer, again violet, and using the brush I'm just gonna, now we can go strong, I'm just gonna add separation between this one and the ones behind. I guess now it's clear that's separated, that this one is close, this one is further back, this one is further and furthest. But then I noticed something, I don't like this edge. On the edge is too hard, as you can see, so I'm just gonna stand on the layer using the black color and the brush with a very low opacity, not that low, 30 maybe. I'm just gonna slowly erase parts of the edge. Like that, so now it blends much better. Okay, now I don't know if we should add that tree or not, but let's add our model. Let's go to, I have here a bunch of like people images. Most of these stocks are from DeviantArt or from the Splash. This one is too dark compared to this one, so let me stand here, add a layer, and using the brush I'm just gonna brighten this part up a little bit. Okay, let me find a good I don't know which one we should use. This one is already standing on a rock. I guess this one should work fine, and we can work on like making her stand on that rock. So let's try. I don't know why though. I have always have a problem when copying things. It doesn't work from the first time. Here, you have to put it here on top, I believe. Uh, Let me close this one. Guess you have to put it like in a empty area. Okay, now I'm gonna just quick select, zoom in. With Alt, I'm gonna, like if wrong parts were selected, I'm just gonna unselect it with Alt. Like that. Let's add layer mask. See here, part of her dress was missing, so I'm just gonna use the brush and I'll just paint over any parts of her that are missing. And after I'm done, I'm just gonna press Ctrl I to have the opposite. Here we have like this blue is wrong, so I'm just gonna paint over with black on the layer mask to delete. I don't want to delete like a lot of her hair. There are better ways to do this, but this is in case you're gonna use a big size model, like, but this one is gonna be very small in the environment, so it's not gonna matter if her hair is not perfectly cut or not. And let's get rid of the lower part. Okay, something like that. Press X click to bring back any missing parts, and X again to go back to deleting. That. Okay, let's see how it's gonna look like when we add her into our environment. You have to put her on top, like it was in the middle of layers, so I'll put it on top and unlink her. I want to put her above here. Let's make her much smaller. That's still too big, I believe. I want these mountains to look huge, so I have to put her really small. And you see we have here this line, so I'm just gonna use the brush with black color and just paint around anything extra and apply layer mask. Now we have our model, but she's too faded compared to the environment. She's close to the camera. You see here we have a very high contrast in the rocks, so she should also have high contrast. So I'm gonna add a curves adjustment layer, link it to her, and just pull down this one until I believe she's matching the environment. So now that's good. Move her a little bit. Reposition her somewhere here is good. Okay, now it's time to add shadow. So I add a layer below her. This is like the best way I like to use to add shadow, and I use a black color. And brush wise, I use this brush and I just squeeze it down like that, and I put it in the direction I want the shadow to be. So the shadow here is to the right, so I'll make it with the same direction of the shadow and start painting. But now I'll just lower the opacity so much, something like that, and I'm just gonna start pulling that below her feet, and you add more clicks below her feet because this should be darker, and as you can go it should be brighter, but I have to go to the eraser and erase. There's a shadow here flying, so I have to erase it, and just here. So now we have this shadow here. One more thing we need to do about her is add a brightness contrast and just darken her strongly, something like that, and maybe more contrast. But then I'm gonna stand on the mask and using normal brush, I'm just gonna erase the darken from that side where the light is hitting. The light is coming from here, so I'm just gonna erase from here. So as you can see, this layer is just darkening the right side, or something like that. Something like that is good, really. You see, darken this side and we left it bright, but her hands are too dark from areas. Here it should have light because the light is coming from that direction. Okay, I guess we're done with this tutorial. Now, this is just the compositing part. The next part is making all the colors look good together. So first thing I like to do is go to curves adjustment layer. I want to blend everything. So I take the darkest point, pull it up. Then I take this point, pull it down like that. And the bright point here, maybe sometimes I try to pull it down. Gives some sort of like a filmy look, but I'm not gonna go strong with it, just a little bit like that. And maybe the brightest part, make it even brighter like that. So now you see this before and after. It added some sort of a mood to the whole photo. Then I'll go to a curves adjustment layer. Let's start coloring this one around. I'll go to the red channel. This is the shadows, the down point. So if I add cyan, it's only gonna affect the shadows. So I'm gonna add some cyan in the shadows, and opposite of it is red in the highlights, some red in the highlights. Then I'm gonna go to the blue channel. I'm gonna add some blue in the shadows. This is blue in the shadows. This is yellow in the shadows. So some blue in the shadows and some yellow in the highlights. And then I'm gonna go to the green channel. This is green in highlights, magenta in highlights. I'm gonna add some magenta in the highlights, something like that. So you see now the coloring we made. Nice color. Okay, I'm gonna go to a gradient map. I'm gonna choose this one. This one is basically, it goes from dark blue to cyan to red to orange to bright yellow, and just lower its opacity. Too reddish here, so I'm gonna take the red color and double click it. Let's move this one a little bit to the left. Let's double click the red color and just desaturate it a little bit. It's too colorful, I don't want that. And okay, and now let me try reducing the opacity. Let's try the soft light. Okay, the soft light is working good. I like it like that. Okay. Now these are the 3 edits we made. If you believe they're too strong, you can always Control G and just lower their opacity altogether. And let me add a layer on top of everything. I like to do that. Take a brush, normal brush with a low opacity and a low flow. Make sure this is on overlay. And just sample a color from here, a bright orange, a color of highlights, and start painting some of the highlights, emphasizing them. Some highlights here, some highlights there. Some even here. Just think where the light should be hitting and start coloring on top of it. Light here and there, some light on the ground also. Okay, let's see the difference now. You see, what I did is just added some sort of light to the whole thing. Okay, now I'm gonna add another layer, again overlay, but this time I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna take a dark cyan color, something like that, and I'm gonna make sure it's an overlay, and I'm gonna paint with it. So now this is the opposite. In the shadows, I'm gonna paint with that color. In the places where I believe it should not have light, far away from the light source, just the places opposite to the parts where you added the light. Okay, let's higher opacity and here. Okay, much better. I just noticed something while painting this one and that one. I don't like them. I'm gonna lock these two. This one here. This is too bright compared to the background we have. So I'm just gonna take the burn tool, make sure it's on the highlights, and I'm just gonna burn a little bit of these very bright highlights here and there. Maybe jump to the midtones and burn a little bit as well from the left side. Yeah, something like that, because there was like a very big difference between the brightness here and the brightness on the floor. The floor was too dark compared to this one, and naturally we have light here in the middle, so this part should be bright and the opposite part should be dark. Let me try the shadows, but with the shadows make sure you're on very low opacity because it's too strong of an effect. We had a layer here, I don't remember. Yeah, this one. This layer here. Lower its opacity so it blends a little bit better with the rock. So now you see, like, before all these adjustments, it looked really fake, as you can see. After these final adjustments, it looked much more of like a one image. It's way better. So the final adjustments are really important to bring everything back together. One more final adjustment sometimes I use is hue saturation and colorize. What this does is it gives you the one color for the whole image. Sorry, I pressed tab by mistake. But what you can do is just lower the opacity. So now we're having one color added on top of the whole image. Let's move it around. Let's try different colors. Have it all to the yellow or all to the like magenta. I don't know which color I like the most. I like the blue actually here, the cyan. Let's have it here and let's lower its opacity. Something like 10%. Okay, let's jump to the another one. Let's try another one. Let's now try the red color and lower the opacity. Let's see this one. Okay, let's just stick to the blue. One thing I have a problem with is that one, the highlights I drew. Just gonna lower their opacity a little bit. I believe they're too strong. The orange highlights I had on the mountains. And this one here, actually, I like it, but I don't want the whole image to be blue. I only want some parts. So I'm just gonna take the brush and paint black in the middle area, because the middle area should have the orange color and the rest should be like the blue. Where the light is hitting, it should be the orange. The middle parts, and lower the opacity back again. So this is the blue effect. Okay, good. Now the last thing, I'm gonna hold Control Alt and Shift, then press E. This will merge everything into a new separate layer. I have now a layer with everything merged on top of everything. I'm gonna go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. This also adds a lot to your photo. I'm gonna go to the effects. I always like to add vignette. Vignette is basically just a black circle around your photo, just added with a low amount. And the dehaze, you can either choose to have more foggy photo or just less foggy. I'm gonna stick with less foggy. And in the clarity, you can choose to have a very sharp photo or very smooth. I'm gonna stick with a smooth photo and press OK. Then again, I'm gonna control to go to the camera raw filter again, sorry. And this time I'm gonna choose the brush. When you choose the brush, you're just choosing certain areas to do your effect. Make sure everything is 0 first. And okay. One more adjustment. Oh, you can't add unless you have some sort of like an adjustment. So in this case, I'm gonna reduce clarity and dehaze, and I'm gonna paint here. So now whenever I paint, I'm doing this decreasing clarity and like hazing the photo. So I want this area to be like less clear and more hazy. Okay. So you see what happened here? Let's go again to camera raw filter. Let's take the brush. Now I'm only gonna de-clear, like make things less clear, and on the mountains, because their texture is too strong. So I'm just gonna make the mountains less clear and their edges especially, so they blend better. Even here on that mountain, here and there. I want the edges to be less clear, so they blend better. And okay. Now it's much softer. I press Ctrl Z. It's very subtle effect, but I don't know if you can see it, but I can. It's like it made everything softer. Camera raw filter. I'm gonna do the opposite now. I'm gonna take the brush. This time I'm gonna increase the clarity, make things clearer and the haze on the model, because this is the area where I want the eyes to be attracted. Even a little bit of highlights, maybe a little bit of contrast. So now the eyes are attracted more here. And let's take a look on like the camera raw filter. This is like before the camera raw filter, and this is after. You see the edges and everything is much smoother. The last thing we can do is add a layer. This is another way of blending, taking a very like brush with low opacity and low flow, and just holding click and coloring. So you're just sampling. Let's use this opacity. You're just sampling colors and painting over the whole image. This makes everything even blend better and make everything much closer together in color wise. Just alt click and then remove alt and click. Alt click, remove alt and click. Alt click and click. Alt click, click, alt click, click. I keep doing that. Just sampling colors and coloring. Let's see this one. You see, it made everything softer. Less contrast. Okay, I guess that's it for today's tutorial. If you liked it, make sure you thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any comments or suggestions, make sure you link them in the comment section down below. Thank you.